Yeah, nowhere to put it. Yeah, my desk is completely full of cameras, 10 to be exact, but only one roll of film. So what's all this about? Well, it's about a kooky little experiment I've been wanting to do for quite some time. You see, I have a lot of Super 8 cameras. Some work great, some work, some, well, don't work that great at all. So I decided to take 10 of my most funnestest cameras and run one roll of film through all 10 cameras. Now, the worst thing about doing something like this is that I have nowhere to set my coffee. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to clean this off and I'll have somewhere to set my coffee. Much better. Okay, now that the table's cleaned off, I have a place to set my coffee. I can talk to you a little bit about what the experiment truly was. I have quite a few Super 8 cameras, and some I use regularly, some I don't use so regularly at all. This is one example of a camera that I really enjoy, but I don't use that often. This is the, if you didn't see, I just got this camera. Essentially, it's a brand new Canon AutoZoom 814 electronic that I got just a couple of weeks ago. If you didn't see that video when I shot some 100D Ektachrome, check it out. But I want to start using this one more often, so I included it in my test. Basically, I took 10 of my Super 8 cameras and I took one new roll of Vision 3 7203 50D, because it's my favorite stock, color negative. And I took it outside, and it took 4 or 5 hours to do this, because changing batteries, checking settings, doing all kinds of crazy things. And it's a little bit warm out, so I didn't bring all 10 cameras outside at once, so I had to keep coming back in. So I got some brand spanking new Duracell AA batteries, and I rotated them throughout the cameras. And I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the cameras that were included in this fun little experiment. So I got my handy dandy clipboard. What I did is I wrote down 1 through 10, but each time I would write one on here, I would set it out on my table outdoors, and I would shoot that number 1, Canon, with that particular camera, so I would know exactly what footage was related to what camera. So here's the cameras I used, a very quick rundown. A Canon 1014 XLS. Now I'm going to mention that 3 times because I have 3 of them and I wanted to test each one of them, because not all of them are created equal and not all are serviced. I used a Shinon 20PXL. I used a Canon AutoZoom 814. I used a Shinon 132PXL, which needs a lot of help. I used a Bolex 150 Super. I used another Canon 1014 XLS. I used a Shinon 200/8XL. I used a Canon AutoZoom 814 electronic. I used my Elmo 1012S-XL. And lastly, I finished up with my last Canon 1014 XLS. So I wanted to test out each camera's, I kind of wanted to see what the gate looked like in each camera. I wanted to see if each camera would meter properly. I wanted to see how each camera would reproduce colors. I wanted to test the sharpness the best I could with each lens. Basically, I really wanted to just test out everything with each and every camera. Now, when I say everything, I just want to make sure the cameras work properly. And for me, for a camera to work properly, it has to expose properly. These Super 8 cameras are old, really old, 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Back then, you basically had Kodachrome K40 or Kodachrome KA2, which is a 25 speed film, and you had some E160 Ektachrome. But these cameras natively can read Kodachrome K40 beautifully. So I wanted to get as close as I could to all of these cameras collectively, their proper exposure reading ability. So what better way to do that than to use a 50 ISO film with no filter outdoors, because it's daylight balanced. And that's exactly what I did. So I put this roll of film in each and every camera. I set every camera, if it had the ability to be changed, to 18 frames per second. I turned every one of them onto auto expose. And I made sure that the 85 filter was out of the way on every camera, if I could. Which the cartridge does that natively anyway, so, but like this, in this instance, I actually put the little pin in the top of the camera here, the little screw, to disable that filter, just because it makes me feel good. Okay. What did I film? Well, I have a backyard, or a garden, as it's known in some countries. That's kind of dull. It's got brown trees. It's got a swing set in the backyard for my daughters, but I wanted some color. So I took 3 incredibly random items. I took a can of WD-40 because the lid is red and the can is yellow and blue. I took my cordless drill because it's an orangey color. And I took a broom that we use to sweep out my garage because it's got bright green bristles. Bristles. Say that 5 times fast. Never mind. And I put them on top of a tiny table, glass top table, and put it in my backyard. So I set each and every camera individually on a tripod, exactly to the center of the tripod, to the center of that table, exactly 10 feet apart. I covered each and every camera with a black towel, and if I could use a remote on the camera, I did. If I couldn't, then I didn't, and I would have to work my hand in there and find the trigger. So for the first 3 seconds of every camera, I filmed my clipboard so I knew which camera was taking that particular footage. For the next 5 to 6 seconds, I did a approximately 20 millimeter wide focal length. For 5 to 6 seconds after that, I did an approximate 10 millimeter focal length to widen it up a little bit. And then I moved on to the next camera. And I made sure when I took the cartridge out that I didn't do it in a dark bag because I wanted those 6 or 8 frames to be blown out so that when I scanned the film, there was no doubt when I switched it out, although there would be no doubt anyway. So what were my results? Overall, I was really surprised. Surprised at how well each and every camera did. There was one in particular, this guy. I got to figure this one out. The auto exposure is just ridiculous, blown out. So I don't know what I'm going to do. The color correction I did on the entire film so as not to bias one or the other. So I didn't color correct each scene. I color corrected the entire clip so that you can see it in all of its individual camera glory. I'm going to label each and every camera at the top of the clip so you know which camera is responsible for that particular section of film. And after the film is over, I will do some very quick photos and show you individually each camera that I used. So without further ado, here's the footage. you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you. I gotta go. Sorry, my wife called me. Like school children. So I like it a lot. That's my favorite film stock. I really think it's my favorite film stock, period, throughout all movie film stocks. Now again, I am not, even though I look it, I am not a professional color corrector. Do the very best that I can. I learn something new each and every time I do it. Now let me take you through very quickly a little collage of each and every camera set up on the tripod outside that I used for this film. Here they go. Now, I processed this film in this amazing CineStill ECN-2 Cine Simplified 2-bath process. Now, I've used it about 4 times so far, and I'm still getting really good results. It's super simple. Thank you again, Frank, for turning me on to CineStill's 2-bath process. I got to order more. I scanned it in 2K on my Movie Stuff Retro Scan Universal Mark I unit. Again, if you want to buy me the Mark II unit, it's only about 10K. I'll happily take it. No takers. All right. 2 things to remember. Number 1, batteries kill your unused cameras. Number 2, punch that like button if you liked this video. And the very last thing I want you to do is subscribe. I get so many cool people that subscribe to this channel, that email me, that send messages, that comment on my videos, and I respond to each and every one of them. Well, at least I try to. So leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about this 10-camera challenge. And goofy ending time. Until the very next time that I see you, then I will see you on the next go-around.